has done it again, taking the world by storm with his latest music video, Gentleman, followed by his first hit, Gangnam Style. How much economic value can Psy extract at home and overseas? President Park Geun-hye will be making her state visit to the U.S. to attend the Korea-U.S. Presidential Summit. We talk about the expected economic benefits following the presidential state visit. The immense opportunities displayed on a transparent screen. We take a look at an innovative technology that creates transparent display screens. We learn about the success know-how of a motorcycle helmet manufacturer which has kept the #1 spot in the international market for the past 20 years. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is showing resemblance with his grandfather Kim Il-sung in his looks and his economic policies. The North Korean economy is experiencing great difficulty.
Hello, I'm Andrew Salmon and welcome to Bizline. As you can see, we're coming to you today from the CBD, the Central Business District in downtown Seoul. Now, on May the 7th, President Park Geun-hye makes her debut on the global stage. She'll be making her first ever state visit, which is to the United States. While she's there, she'll be speaking to US President Barack Obama, but standing on the sidelines of their summit will be a record-breaking business and economic delegation. Later in the program, we'll be speaking to an American expert on US-Korea ties and asking him to assess the significance of this upcoming visit for trade and investment. But before we go to that, let's take a look at all the breaking business and economic stories from here in South Korea.
The free trade agreement between Korea and Turkey went into effect as of May 1st, abolishing tariffs on all Korean imports into Turkey over the next 7 years. Also, the trade deal is expected to pave way for Korean companies to establish themselves in the country, ahead of rival companies from Japan and China. Korea's labor productivity ranked 23rd among the 34 OECD member countries in 2011, up 1 notch from the previous year. The total output of each South Korean worker came to more than $62,000, which paled in comparison to the countries at the top of the list. Samsung Electronics chairman Lee Gun-hee has retained his top spot as the richest person in Korea for a 9th straight year. According to Forbes Korea on Thursday, Lee's net worth jumped by around $2 billion from last year to more than $12 billion. The richest people in Korea are mostly heads of family-controlled conglomerates or their children. Korea's Asiana Airlines and Korean Air ranked the world's 4th and 9th best airlines, respectively, according to a U.S. website Business Insider. The categories used for evaluation included in-flight experience, timely departure and arrival, with an overall focus on the flying experience. Asiana came in at number 4 out of dozens of global carriers in the survey.
Today, the most famous living Korean is not a South Korean president. It's not a North Korean dictator, and it's definitely not a UN Secretary General. Today, the most famous living Korean is a chubby prankster and rapper who's known for his big grin and, of course, for his big shades. His name is Psy, and currently his new single, Gentleman, is exploding across YouTube, proving to everybody, including, I would guess, to Psy himself, that he's not a one-hit wonder. The career of Gangnam's most famous son actually took off late last year, but the question is the Psy effect having any impact on Korea's broader pop cultural exports? Moreover, do free-to-view clips on YouTube generate any actual economic benefit? These are the questions we ask in our next report. Let's take a look.
Psy's latest music video, Gentleman, hasn't let us down after all, gaining popularity at a rapid speed on YouTube. Within 80 hours of its release, it reached more than 100 million visits. In comparison, it took Gangnam Style 52 days to record such a figure. As of April 29, Gentleman recorded over 200 million visits on YouTube. And on the US Billboard chart, it has reached number 5 and is still going strong. It goes without a doubt that the worldwide success brought great fortune to Psy, and that's not all, it could be limitless.
It was a huge hit in France, like all the people were dancing Gangnam Style and stuff. And I think that Gangnam Style gave Korea like legitimacy worldwide. I think Psy put Korea on the map.
With more foreigners taking interest in South Korea and to accommodate their interest on the music video, the Korea Tourism Organization even made a map for foreigners to visit sites where Gangnam Style was filmed, taking them from the actual Gangnam subway station to Shinsadong, Cheongdam-dong shopping streets, the Han River, and even to the fun nightlife of Gangnam clubbing.
강남 스타일이 인기를 얻음에 따라서 저희 이제 관광공사에서도 그 전에도 강남 지역을 마케팅을 하고 있었는데 그 비디오에 나왔던 내용을 활용을 해서 그 관광 명소화하기 위해서 저희가 그 뮤직비디오의 내용을 바탕으로 해서 브로셔를 제작을 했습니다.
Benefits of the success has trickled down to the retail businesses in Seoul as well.
싸이의 강남 스타일로 인해 가지고 강남 압구정 로데오 쪽에 많은 외국인 분들이 오셔가지고 저희 가게도 나름대로 매출 상승이 많이 되고 아주 경제적인 효과가 상당히 좀 큰 것 같습니다.
It's not just the increase of tourists or how much money the retailers are making, but the phenomenon. People around the globe dancing to Psy's horse dance and now his arrogant dance. And regardless of their age or race, singing out Oppan Gangnam Style shows that South Korea is being perceived from a different light beyond its rigid image.
It's a bunch of more cultural, pop-developed people, and a lot more Americans are into K-pop now because of Psy.
Psy's popularity is affecting not only the local culture, but also the global arena where Korea wasn't able to reach out to.
그 한국의 브랜드나 이미지가 상대적으로 약했던 지역인데 미국, 유럽, 특히 중남미, 남미 이런 지역에 있어서도 한국의 브랜드를 단시간 내에 상당히 빨리 올려줘서
Psy is also promoting a better image of South Korea even at concert tours, letting the world know where he is from, showing his love for the country.
이번에 특별히 싸이 씨가 한국 관광을 홍보하는 CF를 또 촬영을 했고 또 이런 CF를 통해서 또 한국의 이미지가 훨씬 더 전 세계적으로 올라갈 거라고 기대를 하고 있습니다.
It would be difficult to put a price tag on promoting South Korea as a brand worldwide, but it's something that should not be taken for granted.
이런 K-팝을 자주 들으면서 이제 점차 한국의 문화에 대해서 더 관심을 갖는다라는 거죠. 그랬을 때 우리의 뭐 한글이라든지 그다음에 또 공연장에 갔을 때 또 한식을 또 한번 먹어보고 싶다라든지 어떤 그런 부분들에 관련돼서 우리나라 전 이 문화적인 측면을 봤을 때 1조 원 정도의 홍보 효과가 있지 않나라고 그렇게 판단했습니다.
On a personal level, Psy ought to be smiling at his payroll. He is expected to take in about $54 million in revenue from the success of Gangnam Style and Gentleman, which equals to total ticket sales of the Korean professional baseball games in 2012. Psy also suggests a new route to be taken for the minds of business.
수치로 환산하기 어려운 또 다른 효과가 있는데 이것이 뭐냐면 한국을 알리고 또 외국 사람들이 한국에 대한 호감을 갖게 되면서 관광이라던가 소비재와 같은 장기적으로 이런 수출이 늘어나는 효과가 발생할 수 있다. 이런 점이 기대됩니다.
These activities should be taken more seriously as secondary industries are getting tougher to survive in the global competition.
말 그대로 크리에이티브라는 부분입니다. 오히려 우리가 어떤 기존에 가졌던 여러 가지 이 전통성이 있는 어떤 문화 부분을 뭐 계속적으로 또 개성 발전시키는 것도 물론 중요하지만 현 시대에 맞게끔 새롭게 재해석을 하는 부분도 굉장히 필요하다는 생각이 들어요.
Culture and art connect people and allow them to communicate better. They nurture creative thoughts and thus open doors for a creative economy, an added value that wasn't thought of much until now.
이번에 싸이의 성공을 통해서 알 수 있듯이 문화나 예술 역시 하나의 성장 동력이 될 수 있다. 그리고 제품에다가 이제 문화적 가치를 더하면은 더 높은 부가가치의 상품이 될 수 있다라는 것을 보여주었다. 이렇게 생각됩니다.
And Psy brings to a light the contribution creativity could bring to an economy on a grand scale, to the country where tangible outcome was the core measurement of economic growth has given a chance to turn its eye on the intangible, creative ideas with an assurance of success from Psy.
This year marks the 60th anniversary of the establishment of the American Chamber of Commerce here in Korea. It also marks the 60th anniversary of the armistice which ended the shooting in the Korean War, a war in which Washington was not only Seoul's key ally, but also its savior. So these dates suggest both the breadth and the depth of the Korean-American partnership. We're here today in Seungkyunkwan University to discuss the upcoming visit of President Park Geun-hye to Washington. Our guest is a professor of economics here at Seungkyunkwan. His name is Thomas Bishop. Thomas, welcome to Bizline.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's get straight into it. Now, during this upcoming official visit, President Park is going to be discussing a range of issues, but she'll be accompanied by a record-sized economic delegation. Given that I would guess that the key issue to be discussed is North Korea, is a massive economic and business delegation merited?
Well, I believe that's for the administration to decide, and since there are many business leaders going with her, I believe they feel that economics is also an important issue, although maybe the military issue, given North Korea's recent actions, is priority number one. But economics is also tied into the overall issue of Korean U.S. cooperation. So hence the large delegation to discuss business and economics.
Okay, now every Korean knows that the US market is very important to Korea. Let's look at it from the other perspective. How important is the Korean market now to the United States?
Well, for some industries, including shipping and telecommunications, it's actually very important. Korean companies in these industries are world competitors. But for other industries like agriculture, of course, Korea, a smaller country, is going to be lower on the world ranking. But if Korea wants to be competitive in a certain key industry, it's going to have to learn to market to the U.S. and then U.S. competitors in these industries are also going to have to learn to compete with their Korean counterparts. Now, for agriculture, looking at the U.S. perspective, Korea can be a very important market, especially for certain popular items like beef and rice. And U.S. is a very big agricultural producer of both of those products, as well as other things that maybe are not traditional imports for Korean consumers, but could be. And it's usually the new products that can see a lot of growth. So even though there are some agricultural products or even other industries that are not currently shipping a lot to Korea at the present time, that could change in the next few years, especially with the continued political cooperation and also the free trade agreement that was finally ratified last year.
Right, we'll come to that in a moment. You just mentioned beef and rice. Now, of course, these are tremendously emotive sectors in the Korean economy, and both of them have faced considerable pressure in terms of imports coming into Korea. How can these kind of issues be ameliorated?
Well, I think the best way is just to look at the facts. There are some concerns always with food about is it safe, is it clean and okay to eat. And food is never 100% safe, even domestic food. So there are issues to consider, but once you look at the facts, I believe that importing and exporting things like rice especially, and beef can be safe and can lower the prices of food for especially poor consumers and make consumers better off. There is a procedure to go through to make sure the food imports are safe, and it's just, I believe, the best way to lower the resistance to importing food is to show people what steps need to be taken to assure consumers that the food is safe.
You've addressed the sort of food, health and safety issue, but there is another issue, is there not, which is the local market in agricultural products is frankly not nearly as competitive as the American market, and I think there's a legitimate fear that local farmers will be swamped by American agricultural imports.
Yes.
How do you address this?
That's a good question. Agriculture is usually a big loser or winner for trade, depending on the country. For the U.S., it's a winner because the U.S. has a lot of fertile land and it's good at growing certain crops and raising certain animals. Korea, as I said before, is a small country, and except for certain specialized products like maybe tangerines or kamkyul, as we say in Korean, Korea has a tough time competing in agriculture. And you can look at agriculture. You can also look at other things like textiles, which can be manufactured more cheaply, usually in other countries. And the best way to deal with this issue of uncompetitive domestic industry is through the tax code. We always have poor people and rich people in any country, and sometimes people lose their jobs, become poor because of trade. And if we use the tax code, we can redistribute the money, take it from the rich and give it to the poor, and give people an income, but still allow consumers to buy food at lower prices. And that's also important for poor consumers. We need to have cheap food if we expect especially poor people to have enough to eat. So you can lower the prices of food with free trade, but you can also give people assistance through the tax code. And that's not just for trade, it's for many kinds of issues dealing with income distribution and wealth distribution.
Okay. Let's talk about trade partnerships. Now, throughout much of the last 60 years, Washington has been Seoul's top trade partner. But in recent years, of course, China, with its proximity and its enormous market size, has overtaken Washington. And now China is the main trade partner for Korea. How is this perceived in the US? Is there a sense of us or them about this? Is it seen as a zero-sum game? Or is there more a sense that Korea's increasing commercial integration with China is a plus for American business?
Well, you get a range of opinions. Some people come from, let's say, a military background, and it's usually an us versus them attitude. However, business people tend to look at international relations, international cooperation as a positive-sum game, where if you can trade anything at all, either consumers or producers and sellers will be better off. So it depends on whom you talk to. You can get both kinds of opinions.
What's your opinion?
My opinion as an economist obviously would be towards the second opinion. I don't think that cooperation with China is a bad thing. In fact, I can see it as kind of opening up China's market, which I would like to see. So cooperation internationally with China can help the markets become more liberalized, more free. People can buy what they want, sell what they want, and make more money. And as an economist, I see that as a good thing. And you know, as an economist, I often study poverty, and I think it's good to lift people out of poverty through trade and other means, including Chinese citizens. So I view it as a positive trend. Now, if we have a military general in here or anyone from the military, I think the opinion would differ, but we have to look at both military and economic cooperation.
Thomas, it's been a year now since the KORUS, the Korea-US Free Trade Agreement, or FTA, was first implemented. Are you satisfied with the progress of the implementation thus far?
Yes, I am satisfied. It's going to take several years for all of the clauses to be implemented, but some of them have already been implemented to date, and I'm happy to see that some prices of some food products have already fallen in supermarkets, and there's been little or relatively little political opposition after the fact, after it has been passed. So before it was passed, there was kind of resistance to get it passed, but now that it was passed, the resistance has gone down.
Well, let's talk about resistance, because there have been signs of economic nationalism in South Korea, and most of them are focused against South Korea's biggest ally, the US. The American Chamber of Commerce was invaded by radical students. US investment fund Lone Star has been lambasted by NGOs, by bureaucracy, by media. US beef was a political issue, and the KORUS FTA itself faced, much stronger political headwinds than did the Korea-EU free trade agreement. So, is anti-American sentiment a concern for American businesses?
I think it is. It's always a concern, and I think the concern comes from two sources. One, we already touched on a little bit earlier. Free trade can cause some people to lose their jobs, and it can be viewed as unfair, especially for politically sensitive industries like agriculture. And that there's a job for the domestic government to do here, and that's to say, for those who have to compete, we can redistribute money to make sure that you will be happy after the trade is opened up. But let's not also forget that free trade can benefit consumers by lowering the prices, as well as benefit domestic firms who can sell abroad. So that's the first source of contention or demonstration. I believe it's the unfairness or perceived unfairness from trade. The second has to do with the military cooperation with the U.S. And I believe that some Koreans, I think it's a minority, but a vocal minority nonetheless, have a kind of love-hate relationship with the U.S. militarily. The U.S. is viewed as necessary to protect South Korea from the North, but also because of the military presence, it's viewed as kind of an invasionary force, if I could use that word. So, what to do about the cooperation, as well as necessary but also unpopular cooperation with the U.S. military. If North Korea becomes a bigger issue militarily, I think some of that resistance will get automatically tamped down and pushed out of the political sphere. But if we see more cooperation with North Korea economically, and there's kind of a détente or peace with the current regime in North Korea, if that could happen, maybe the resistance to the U.S. military will start to increase. So I'm sorry, I don't have an easy solution. The best thing to do is to recognize that it does exist and recognize the causes of the resistance and the protest.
Okay, so a political issue impacting the economic sphere. Okay, what are some of the perhaps more economic or bureaucratic or business-focused problems facing U.S. firms here in Korea?
Well, it can be viewed as an economic or marketing issue that really faces all firms when they go abroad. You have to know your consumers, know what they want, know how much money they can afford to spend. So that's really a marketing issue that can be addressed by doing various economic surveys and research. And then also related to that is the political background, which can tie into the economic needs and economic feelings. And can businesses kind of promote their product with a politically friendly advertisement? Yes, they can, but it's hard to do. Politics, and it's such a hard variable to control, measure and control. And Korean consumers can be friendly to U.S. interest in 1 year, and then the next year it can sentiments can totally change. So I guess if I had one piece of advice is to know your market and know your market, do your research and figure out what consumers want, and then also hope that the politics doesn't interfere with people's basic desire to buy imported or domestic products.
Okay. And presumably the issues you're talking about of the cultural issues of business are ones that face Korean companies going into the US market.
Yes. So there are cultural barriers. Language barrier would be the best example. You have to know how to describe your product using the local language, and if you make a grammatical mistake or kind of say a silly word, mistranslated word, it can really make it difficult to sell to the foreign consumer. So it's just a function of market research, I feel.
Sounds like the two presidents will have quite a lot to discuss beyond the North Korean issue. Thomas, thank you very, very much indeed for being with us on Bizline.
Thank you.
Thank you. In Cheongdam-dong, in Gangnam, in southern Seoul, there's a shop window which is drawing a lot of attention. Like any shop, it displays products in its window, but here's the difference. If a customer sees a product which catches his or her eye, he can walk up to the window, press the screen, and the product will be rendered in 3 dimensions, meaning the customer or potential customer can see the product, all-round view, and its specs. In our ICT segment, we're going to take a look at and into this technology, a technology which has the potential to change the face of shop windows across the globe.
This is a transparent display that makes people to have illusion of images floating in the air. The time is now 2013. Already, time has come to explore the world of the futuristic transparent display that is expected to be brought to reality soon. Passerbys can't take their eyes off from the display window at a handbag store in Cheongdam-dong, Seoul. The special show window glass lets people do more than watching. They can rotate a real bag behind the show window or zoom it in to get more information about the bag by just touching the screen.
처음에는 그냥 일반 유리 쇼케이스인 줄 알았는데 알고 보니까 이렇게 터치도 할 수 있는 디스플레이여서 정말 하나의 디지털 작품 같은 느낌을 주는 것 같아요.
The convenience store doesn't look that special from its outside appearance, but there is something special about the cooler inside. When the customer walks closer to the refrigerator, a start button automatically appears on the glass door. A touch sensor embedded across the cooler's glass door allows customers to operate the screen by a simple touch. Images can float on the glass because the glass is special. This is a transparent display with a thickness of 9.5 millimeters, not even 1 centimeter. The state-of-the-art technology. The transparent display allows people to view an object behind the display while watching images floating on the front of the screen.
유리에 이러한 프로젝터로 2차원 영상을 프로젝션 시켜서 띄우는 것입니다. 이와 같은 방법은 이미 상용화되어 있고 고급 차에도 들어가 있습니다. 예를 들어서 그 헤드업 디스플레이인데요. 이러한 차량 유리창 앞에 계기판이 같이 뜨게 하는 것입니다. 또는 그 비행기에 전투기 같은 데 들어가 있다고 알려져 있습니다. 그리고 또 한 가지 방법의 디스플레이는 이 디스플레이 패널 자체가 어떠한 그 유기 매질로서 발광을 할 수 있는, 빛을 낼 수 있는 그러한 매질로 만드는 그러한 것입니다.
The company launched TransLook, a transparent display commercialized for the first time in the world. This display is an improvement from existing transparent displays with enhanced transparency and color reproduction, combined with high-quality graphic modes for the production of video content.
그 마켓에 내놔서 실제 제품력을 더 만들어내기 위해서는 그 투명도와 색 재현력을 잡아야겠다라는 생각이 있었습니다. 그래서 디스플레이 TFT LCD를 재가공해서 저희가 만든 이제 V 필터도 입히고 사면 LED랑 연동하는 기술을 R&D를 했습니다.
Vinyl Eye is the company responsible for the display embedded in the refrigerator and the showcase display. Its transparent displays come in various shapes such as a table and a console. Also, it is possible to operate them both offline and online.
영상이 이제는 너무 일반화되어 있기 때문에 사람들한테 이제 아이 캐치를 할 수 있는 요소들로는 좀 부족한 면이 있습니다. 광고를 하려고 하는 실제 오브젝트, 제품을 실물을 볼 수도 있고, 그다음에 그 제품에 대한 정보를 그 사용자가 이렇게 적극적으로 인터랙티브하게 멀티미디어적인 요소로 볼 수 있다는 거가 가장 큰 장점일 것 같습니다.
But this is only the beginning. A new technology is already under development. Professor Lee Byung-ho is a faculty member at the School of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at Seoul National University. He was featured in the cover story of Physics Today, a monthly publication of the American Institute of Physics that introduces the latest technological advances developed by the world's most renowned physicists. Professor Lee is one of the world's most renowned experts in the three-dimensional display field and recently developed a see-through display that shows floating 3D images on glasses and windows. It was possible to play only two-dimensional images on the transparent display until recently. But his latest achievement paved the way for the era of the 3D see-through display.
디스플레이의 가장 핵심은 이 유리 매질 내에 부분적으로 반사시킬 수 있는 크기 1mm씩 되는 그러한 거울을 만들어 놓는 것입니다. 그래서 여기에서 3이라는 글자는 이 앞에 2cm 있고 D라는 글자는 뒤에 2cm 있습니다. 이 안에 내장된 그러한 거울이 부분적으로만 반사시키는 거울이기 때문에 투과한 이미지는 계속 진행하는 것을 볼 수가 있습니다. 그래서 이것은 3차원상을 프로젝션에 의해서 만들면서 또 뒤에 있는 그러한 물체를 볼 수 있는 see-through 기능을 가지면서 3차원 이미지를 띄울 수 있는 그러한 디스플레이가 되겠습니다.
3D resolution of a see-through display is still lower than that of two-dimensional images, but it will likely catch up soon. It is highly likely to develop an advertising system displaying 3D images within a few years.
공상 과학 영화 같은 데서 보는 것 같은 그런 것이 가능할 것입니다. 이렇게 화면을 보면서 떠 있는 상을 손으로 움직이면서 그 상을 바꾸고 끌어내고 하는 것입니다.
그러니까 지금은 안에서 광원을 쏴줘야 되는 안에 함체 형식으로만 구현이 되지만 글라스 자체에서 그런 빛을 자체 발광할 수 있는 구조가 되면 일반 유리를 아예 대체해버리는 현상까지 나올 수 있기 때문에 그때부터는 아주 새로운 마켓과 굉장히 큰 시장이 열린다고 생각이 됩니다.
The state-of-the-art technology bringing a sci-fi movie into reality. Imagine what we can do in the future of the innovative display technology. Possibilities will be breathtaking.
Welcome to our Hidden Champion segment. It's no easy thing being the global leader in your business sector, and it's no easy thing maintaining that lead for 20 years. Moreover, isn't it remarkable that a company could do both those things, and yet the global public remains unaware of the company's brand name? Bikers, hang on to your hats as we introduce the world's leading maker of motorcycle helmets.
motorcycle race provides adrenaline rush for the spectators. People cheer on as they watch motorcycles spin around the circuit at 300 kilometers per hour. Unlike an automobile, a motorcycle exposes a person's body, which makes them more dangerous compared to other transportation methods. The most important protection for any motorcycle rider is the helmet, which acts as a lifeguard. MotoGP is the world's largest motorcycle race, which is broadcasted to some 70 countries around the world, with some 1.4 billion people watching the event every year. The current world champion is Jorge Lorenzo. This year, the world champion signed a 2-year contract for an official sponsorship with a Korean helmet manufacturing company. He has said to have contracted the company showing interest to use their helmet. His choice of helmet was made by Jin HJC. The company has 40 years of experience in making motorcycle helmets, which has a 20% share in the global market. Around 30% of the company employees are involved in research and development. Their aim is to create better quality helmets, which vary in size according to the countries the helmets are being exported to. Jin HJC makes sure they test each product before it's manufactured through their state-of-the-art system.
일반적으로 세 가지로 분류가 되는데 유로피안 스타일이 있고 그다음에 아메리칸 스타일, 그다음에 아시안 스타일이 있습니다. 그 각각의 그 스타일에 맞게 EPS를 개발하고 있는 과정이고 세계적인 선수 로렌조 선수도 이 자리에서 그 두형을 측정해서 3D 스캔을 해서 그 사람만의 정확하게 맞는 헬멧을 개발하는 스캔 작업 과정입니다.
The Jin HJC helmets are unique and sophisticated in design. It's lightweight and incorporates the certified center locking system. Users say the HJC helmets are comfortable mainly because of the aerodynamic design, which allows airflow inside the helmet. The company owns the wind tunnel system, which is a facility not many manufacturers have worldwide. This system allows the makers to test the helmet with air pressure, wind, and noise, all of which are important factors when riding a motorcycle.
본 설비는 세계에서 3곳밖에 없는 헬멧 전용 풍동 실험실이고요. 저희 풍동 실험실은 최고 속도가 216km까지 발생을 시킬 수 있는 설비입니다. 그리고 216km는 그 라이더들이 주행할 수 있는 일반적인 환경을 다 모사할 수 있는 성능을 가지고 있고요.
The most important function of a helmet is in the degree of protection it can provide in case of an accident. Motorcycle helmets need to withstand shock, which is why manufacturers test the degree of protection the helmet can give in the worst-case scenario.
네, 지금 보신 시험은 헬멧의 가장 기본적인 충격 흡수 성능을 시험 평가하는 시험인데요. 그 각각의 그 지역별로 미국, 유럽에 따라 그 헬멧의 충격을 안정성을 그 정해놓은 기준이 각각 다릅니다. 저희 HJC에서는 각각 그 지역에 맞는 규격의 헬멧이 생산되고 있는지 그러한 생산품에 대해서 이렇게 샘플링을 해서 그 충격 안정성 흡수를 시험하고요. 실제 그 사고 시에 그 저희 헬멧을 착용한 소비자가 생명을 구할 수 있는지 여부를 가장 판가름하는 가장 기본적인 어떤 그 성능 평가 시험이라고 할 수 있습니다.
Based on test results, HJC helmets came in first place among other leading global brands by a famous motorcycle-related magazine in Europe.
엄격한 품질 관리를 통해서 어떤 생산되고 있는 제품이다라고 말씀드릴 수 있고요. 다른 회사 제품도 그럴지 모르겠는데요. 저희 회사 제품의 경우는 같은 규격을 만족함에 있어서도 HJC 자체적인 규격 기준에 적합해야만 그 생산되고 출고되고 또 실제적으로 생산 라인에서 샘플을 채취해서 평가하고 있는 그런 엄격한 품질 관리 시스템을 유지하고 있고 또한 그 제품의 중량 면에서도 그 타사 제품 대비 우수한 어떤 그 경쟁력을 갖고 있다라고 말씀드릴 수 있습니다.
헬멧이 가벼워야지 사다
There are many clubs that attract motorcycle fans who enjoy speed and the lifestyle that comes with riding a motorcycle. The gathering creates a venue for people to get together and share information about motorcycles. Riders visit this motorcycle shop, which is their favorite place. Among many brands, Jin HJC products are by far the most popular.
원래 쓰고 있는 헬멧은 HJC FG15라는 헬멧을 쓰고 있었는데요. 약간 이제 크기도 커 보이고 그래가지고 이번에 알파 10이라는 모델이 새로 나왔다고 그래서 쉘 크기도 작고 가볍다고 그래서 한번 써보려고 방문하게 되었습니다.
With its lightweight and stability, the desire for HJC helmet continuously increases. This also encourages the HJC to self-develop different areas and also increase its industrial output. Jin HJC has maintained the top position in the global market for the past 20 years, with sales offices and factories located in areas like the United States, Europe, China, and Vietnam. The worldwide motorcycle market is expected to grow each year to reach around $90 billion by the year 2016. Demand for motorcycles keep increasing as it becomes a popular means of transportation or living or even a hobby. The trend is expected to boost sales for the helmet industry, which is already on the fast lane for success.
A hopeful world expected change in the world's most isolated economy when a young, Swiss-educated leader took power in Pyongyang in 2011. And indeed, Kim Jong-un, North Korea's leader, has promised better lives, better futures for his long-suffering people. However, the world has been disappointed. For economic policy in North Korea has a strangely backward look to it. Kim Jong-un not only looks and sounds like his grandfather, Kim Il-sung, who died in 1994, he appears to have adopted an economic policy very similar to that of his grandfather, which was used in the 1950s. In our North Korean segment, we'll take a look at the whats and the whys of a policy that looks oddly retrospective.
It is not only Kim Jong-un's looks, but also his policies that appear to resemble those of his grandfathers. One of the noticeable examples is the copycat policy of the Cholima movement. The state-sponsored production increase measure has been emphasized throughout the North Korean history. The state-sponsored production increase movement has been emphasized throughout North Korean history, but especially so after the young leader came into the spotlight. The North Korean media has again recently highlighted the Cholima steel complex in Gangsan, where the Cholima movement was first started in the 1950s by Kim Il-sung.
국가와 정부를 믿고 또 뭐 수령을 믿고 헌신했던 그때의 과거를 되돌려 보자는 건데요. 어쨌거나 저는 김정은 정권이 해볼 수 있는 건 다 해보는 거야.
지금 현재 그 정권이 사회에 대한 장악이라든지 경제에 대한 장악을 유지하는 방법이 계획경제를 강조하는 거거든요. 천리마 운동 같은 식의 방법이 필요한 거지. 할아버지를 흉내내기 위해 가지고 천리마 운동을 도입한 건 아니라는 거죠.
The term Cholima means 1,000 li horse, referring to its ability to travel 1,000 li or 400 kilometers in a single day. Launched in 1956, the movement intended to raise the country out of the rubble of the Korean War and to achieve a prosperous nation and a better life by promoting rapid economic development. The result was astonishing. Miracles were recorded in all areas of economic activity.
그것은 성공한 역사입니다. 그러니까 경제 건설에도 성공했습니다만 그것을 바탕으로 주변의 정적들을 제거할 수 있는 힘들을 얻었던 부분들이죠. 결코 잊을 수 없는 역사입니다.
Unfortunately, the mass mobilization movement was not enduring. The core of Cholima was the personal guidance of Kim Il-sung rather than rational modes of economic management. So after a decade or so of prosperity, the economy started to deteriorate due to years of unbalanced distribution of resources and labor exhaustion.
60년대로 넘어가게 되면 이게 동력을 잃게 됩니다. 대중운동이라는 게 결국은 이제 한시적인 효과밖에 거두지 못하는 것들이죠.
Then why does the current leadership still support and use the Cholima movement?
한 단어가 주는 상당한 그 정치적인 소위 말하는 상징성이 있는 거죠.
현재 안 되니까. 그리고 다른 방법들이 없기 때문에 결국 대중에게 호소를 하는 것이고 할아버지 시대나 아버지 시대나 자기 시대나 결국은 그 흘러간 옛 노래를 부를 수밖에 없는 또 하나 이제 고민들이 있다는 것들이죠.
Experts predict Cholima will not have much effect in reality.
당시의 천리마라든가 김일성 그 50년대, 60년대는 비록 그 수준은 열악하지만 국가가 전후 복구 단계에서 주민들의 생활, 최소한의 그 생활 수준은 그래도 나름 보장을 했던 거죠. 지금 2013년에 그 국가가 소위 말하는 사회주의 국가 원칙에 부합하는 그런 배급 분배 시스템을 유지하고 있느냐, 전제 조건이 안 되는 거죠. 그 국제 환경이 말씀대로 너무 달라진 거죠. 당시에는 중국이라든가 또 당시 소련의 원조가 있었고 북한이 그 다른 사회주의 국가로부터 원조를 받을 수 있는, 그래서 그런 동원 체제를, 국가 주도 동원 체제를 유지할 수 있는 정당성도 없고 또 능력도 없는 거죠.
Many expected Swiss-educated Kim Jong-un would forward the North Korean economy with reform and opening up. Instead, he seems to be returning to the past by adopting policies that had once fostered short-lived prosperity half a century ago.
달리 본다 그러면은 기본적으로 정권 자체가 과거로부터 연속 성장이라는 측면들, 특히 이제 정권 초기라는 속성들도 있기 때문에
지도자라는 거는 국가기 때문에 본인이 어느 정도 그 자율성에 또 한계가 있는 거거든요. 무한 권력을 누릴 수는 없기 때문에 자기를 둘러싸고 있는 권력 집단들, 당 또는 내각 또는 특히 군부와 일정 부분 지도자도 타협할 수밖에 없는 거죠.
It is apparent that Kim Jong-un, still early in his leadership, faces the dilemma of adopting and balancing out the old and new. However, the young leader and his policymakers should remember, while they are experimenting with options that are bound to fail, they are only further downgrading their people's lives and faith in the regime.
And that is all we have time for this week. Now, May is considered Family Month in Korea, and as you can see, we're enjoying some sensational weather. We hope you can get out with your family and enjoy it. In the meantime, we'll be hoping for fair winds, not just in the weather, but also in the economy. I'm Andrew Salmon. This was Bizline. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next week. Goodbye.